It's a whole new week and it's a whole new vibe right here on Jasiri, and you're right in time for the best way to get your week started. Welcome to Jasiri, the place for bold, insightful, fearless and courageous conversations on issues that matter to me and to you. And we're having one of those discussions today. But of course, before that, how can we start the show without wishing you a happy Eid al-Maulud? To you, our Muslim brothers and our sisters, celebrating the birth of the Holy Prophet Muhammad today, we celebrate with you. Ladies, please welcome back the one, the only, from that laughter you know, Annie Icha. We are never going to get rid of you. There's a song like that now.
Barry White, never gonna let you go.
Hey, that's all. Annie, welcome to Jasiri. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, ladies. This is so good.
So when you came back, nothing told you in your little mind to bring like goodie bags? Like,
to come and appease the gods. How do you know I didn't even
come and appease the gods? I saw when you came and there was no extra nylon. Yes.
No, you don't know how to do things under the table. What's your problem?
Well, just in case you might decide to come tomorrow.
I didn't come back for this, okay? I'm going to leave. I'll leave.
Leave to where? Anytime you are leaving these tables to go to toilet.
I come right back.
It is so good to be back, everyone. So good to be back on this table. So good to be back with these ladies. They're amazing. The vibe is pure, and I love it. Well, I'm going to be sitting in for blessings for a few weeks, but we're going to miss her. But I'm going to do my best to fill in her shoes and give some insights to the great conversations we're going to have on this table. All right, so I was watching and listening to Chioma Agwebo. Yes. I think that's how her name is pronounced. She was talking about femicide. So she was running a masterclass on femicide, and it was very intense. It was a difficult topic to talk about, but it was very important to listen to it. And, you know, from the things that she was saying and some of the feedback that came, it feels like Nigeria is not ready to face honestly and decidedly this issue of femicide and taking a proper stand and looking for things like real solutions to the violence against women in this country. Absolutely. I mean, when you think about the senator, what's his name? Issa, who is trying to repeal the VAPP Act. And he's not even focusing on the important thing of, listen, we should strengthen this act. We should try and protect women. Because without women, let me tell you guys something, the society does not exist without women. We can't keep killing women off. We can't keep destroying women's psyches, destroying their bodies for very ridiculous things like money or this person left me or rituals. I mean, it has become a very sad situation. And I don't mean to start the week with this, but it is important to talk about it. So ladies, I'm going to throw this conversation over to you before we get into the show today.
For me, it's not just the fact that women are traumatized on a daily basis, but the society now has to deal with the consequences of those traumatized women in society. And most of the time, trauma births another trauma. We're looking for a healed society, a society where everybody can be proud, where children can be raised wholesomely. But if everybody is broken on different levels, how do we expect the society to get wholesomeness? So this act that they are trying to repeal, it does not make any sense that it's even up for discussion. If there's anything that should be done to that act is, what can we do to further strengthen this act? How can women be better protected? And the fact that this VAP Act is not even women-centric.
I was going to say.
It's people-centric. That means even young boys, even men, can find protection under this particular act. So it shouldn't even be something that we should be discussing the repealing of. It should be, okay, what other sections can we add to this act to shore it up, to make it really strong, so that everybody out there can get the notice. It's wide like a billboard. Do not do this, because these are the consequences.
You know, I've spoken about the fact that we are a society that typically lacks consequences. From the high to the low.
Yep.
We'll see people start begging for somebody. Okay, Annie wasn't here when we were talking about the guy who traveled and he has jackpot, he has gotten a job, and he has started sending sexually explicit texts to his Nigerian colleague in the office. And she said she was going to report him and get him deported. Nigerians are in social media saying, she should reorientate him. And I'm thinking, so because somebody who's doing that was doing something similar in Nigeria. We've seen,
he didn't stop there.
Unfortunately, we've seen Nigerian men get arrested abroad for trying to talk to minors. And I'm one of those people who believe they were doing something back home and they got away with. So too many people in this country have failed to really get consequences for their actions.
Absolutely.
And that's it. We're a country that lacks consequences, therefore we then lack justice.
People just do anything
By
they
the
like.
way,
They get away
please,
with it.
I'm not like to digress. Do you know there are 13 public holidays in the country?
13.
I
We're
can
doing
Of all the
13.
sensitiveness of
No, I know.
that we should add some more.
No.
What, you want them to add more?
Why not?
I mean,
Are they
you
giving?
might
No,
as
no.
well.
Excuse me.
Because
Do you
you
know
look like
who
it's on a
I
break.
am? Are they giving you a public holiday for me? World Lolo Day,
Well, no.
so that you all can get spa time.
Your birthday is what?
April 27th.
What?
It should become a national because
Holiday.
I am a national treasure.
Amen.
Come on now. Listen, speaking into existence.
Amen. GCON. GCFR. No, we call it
It's
into
okay.
existence.
I do not want people to know my words
Well,
totally.
yes.
On this table.
Don't expose that.
So they should not come and...
You know, when we say 13, but you know 13 is
13.
supposed
That's a
to be a
lot.
sinister number.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
And it was the 13th on Friday, wasn't
And
it?
I wanted to talk about it, but I was like, do Nigerians really do Friday the 13th?
So some people know about it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a movie
That
Friday the 13th.
Grim
But there's like
Reaper
this,
and it was
there's
chopping people
folklore
up.
that the 13th, Friday the 13th is like a day of bad luck and evil.
Like the oddest day.
But I think when you don't think about it or you're not
Conscious of it.
indoctrinated into
Yeah, it doesn't apply to you.
it's a different thing. When I was there, Friday the 13th, I'm like,
had
if
no
you step on a crack, it's an issue. If cup falls, it's an issue.
Sure,
If you see
crap behind your back.
you'll be like, is it only me on Friday the 13th? But again, it's a societal thing. We have our own superstitions.
Friday
I
the
don't think
13th,
any are
But I
tied.
think every country has its own superstitions.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And all of them are founded on maybe a folk tale or something, you know, different. Just like we have Bigfoot, we have
You don't have
mermaid
Bigfoot.
story.
We
No,
don't have
Bigfoot
Bigfoot in
is not
Nigeria,
from
but-
here. It's
So
a
what do we have
Scandinavian.
here?
So
What's the equivalent
we
of
have
Bigfoot?
Egbere.
Mami
We have
water.
Mami water. We
Wait,
have
I'm sorry,
Osho
guys.
in
I
Brazil.
can't pass up this opportunity. Tolu was asking what the equivalent of Bigfoot in Nigeria is.
Is there an equivalent?
Do we need a problem like Bigfoot in Nigeria? Where we have the politicians that we have.
They are enormous foot.
You know what? It's like Friday the 13th every Friday in Nigeria where you have to deal with Nigerian politicians.
Yes.
Anyway, before we, there's so much. Honestly, if you're not on the show, then it's time for you to call everybody to get on the television right now because today's show is about to go off.
You guys are quiet. How was the weekend? Is it that people are trying to brush over the weekend?
It went so fast.
Yeah, I think...
I spent my whole Saturday filling one of these forms. And it
I
took
told
all
you you
day.
could do it.
So Tolu was part of it.
So
I never even got to the C one. I just did the U one. And it took all day.
It's okay.
So you looked to look in it or you...
I did it myself and I told you she can do it too.
Oh no, Mommy Coco. She did it
you know
with some
Mommy
gravy
Coco.
and some biscuits and some bagel.
Some hot cocoa.
Hot cocoa. I did it with grit, no food in the belly.
Lolo, please, I beg.
You would not
Okay, that was
survive
your
life.
weekend. Annie, how was your weekend?
It was, I don't know. That's the truth. I'm thinking about it now, and my weekend, it's a bit of a blur. I can't remember.
Wow, you drank all through?
You know, because it went by so fast.
No, I didn't drink that much, actually.
Wow. But
Did
there
I
was
say
a
that I
drinking.
didn't drink? What? What am I saying? How
exactly.
was your weekend, Catherine?
Let's go there because Annie has given herself away.
Wow. There's some truth serum on this table.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Catherine, how was your weekend?
She wants
should we
to know
start
before she starts talking. She
From
wants
the
to
rice
know.
that didn't get cooked.
My sister.
That's
Catherine is my sister.
My
I asked the
sister.
ladies first of all, you know my girls. First thing I asked when I sat on this chair is, why does gas finish on Sundays? And in the night. And in the night. Always finish on Sundays.
All times.
I was just tired. You know how I just tired.
Oh, yeah.
And the rice soaked the water. So I was saying, last, I eat it. Like,
Did you eat the rice like
No,
that?
I had to send for gas.
But did he get saggy?
No.
That's my favorite rice to eat, soggy rice.
No, you should try rice water then. Have you ever tried rice water?
I'm sorry?
Just like eating the rice.
So you turn the rice...
No,
it's
like pepper soup.
No, people come down. My mom is half Ghanaian. Rice water is from Ghana. So you cook the rice and then you make it like a porridge. So it's like having leftover rice. So in the morning, you add more water to it. You let it get mashy. You take it with condensed milk. A little bit of cinnamon on top. My sister.
I wouldn't call it rice water. I would say rice pudding.
That's probably what they call it.
I would say pudding because that's how rice pudding is like.
So you know, like in Jamaica, like the Caribbean, they call.
No, it's so lovely. It
would be
nice.
It doesn't go. It would be nice.
No.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's like rice pudding.
I wouldn't
eat that
eat
all the
but
time.
it would be nice.
Okay, it's like I'm bringing for you people tonight. All right, okay.
Rice water.
Ask me how was my
weekend?
I did not step foot outside my house, and I was so happy. When I entered on Friday, this is the first time I'm coming out.
Do you know some people say when you say that you didn't step foot out the house? People don't understand that.
It's such a blessing
what do you
not
do
to do it.
when you don't step foot outside your house?
A lot.
You struggle to stay at home.
Yeah, you work, you clean, you rest, you drink
because
wine.
outside now, you step foot outside, you hear that 20,000. You hear clicking? You hear savings account.
Yeah,
I'm like, no. And then you can't step outside with my 9-year-old. Oh, God, no.
She'll point to every time. But I cooked beans for my family on Saturday when I was coming back home. When you are broke, you know, you'll not be using your last coins to do bad things. I don't know what possessed me to say rice and dodo. Who does dodo in this harsh economy?
You said rice and dodo.
No, beans and dodo.
And you did beans and dodo.
My sister. Just 1 derica of beans is 2,600.
Yes. That's why I'm looking at you.
How much was the plantain? And plantain on you guys' side.
Plantain, like 4,000. It just, the fingers were just like this.
No, you can't get a full
Even a witch she cannot even be proud of the fingers.
Plantain.
That plantain.
Wow.
It's a delicacy and it's a confirmed side.
My dear,
Wow.
if you saw the way we
Plantain
sliced it into rounds.
Yes.
You know, it's only rich people that
do cubes.
diagonal cutting now. No, we had round chips like.
It's better. You do cubes, cut into 6.
So that when you heap it, it will look like
Okay, Lola.
President.
Anyway, from that one, you know, this is a women's table. We must bring it back to what is really normal. And I know that this is happening in a lot of families. So you are not alone, is what Jasiri Table is telling you this morning. It's good to have Annie back, sitting in for my Gen Z body. Rare blessings. Don't worry, we'll see you soon. But if anybody tells you that I even made a face like I was so sad, I'll deny it. But let's go on a break, because when we come back, the conversation moves to a very, very important question. Is Nigeria's civic space shrinking? Honestly, hold on to that topic. Jasiri returns.
You're watching Jasiri, and we want you to be part of our conversations. Now follow us on @NewsCentralTV and share your thoughts and opinions on our conversations. Now, Nigeria's civic space, which includes the rights to freedom of expression, association, and peaceful assembly, is a vital component of its democratic framework and has been increasingly constrained in recent years, reflecting a troubling trend of reduced freedom for civil society and dissenting voices, as well as an increased restriction on public expression and assembly. This contraction is very evident through the suppression of protest and critical media. These measures not only undermine democratic values, but also stifle the vital role of civic engagement in holding power accountable.
Now, civic space enables citizens, civil society organizations, and the media to express opinions, organize protests, and engage in public discourse. However, in recent years, concerns have emerged over whether Nigeria's civic space is shrinking due to increasing government regulations, harassment of activists, and crackdowns on dissenting voices. This perceived contraction of civic space raises important questions about the future of democracy in the country. Instances of media censorship, suppression of protests, and the use of security forces against demonstrators have sparked debates on whether these actions reflect an attempt to stifle civic engagement and silence opposition.
Anyway, despite these challenges, Nigeria's public space remains actively engaged with widespread use of social media platforms like ours to voice dissent and organize civil actions. However, the increasing constraints on these freedoms highlight a critical moment for evaluating the resilience and the future of Nigeria. of Nigeria's civic space. Understanding the dynamics and the impact of this shrinking space is crucial for advocating for a more open and participatory society in Nigeria. And today, joining us to have this discussion, we have the Executive Director of EIE, Opeyemi Adamolekun. We'd like to say welcome back to Jasiri, Opeyemi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for
Why
having
not
me.
clap?
Welcome to the show, Mr. Adamolekun. I mean, remember the last time she was here?
Yes.
It was such a brilliant, insightful conversation, and we're looking forward to that. To start it off, I remember, I think it was last year on the 18th of December, our president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he called for a meeting in the State House or in Abuja, and he was addressing the newspapers Proprietors Association of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yes, and essentially, I mean, many things were discussed there, chief of which was his commitment to ensuring, I wish you saw the reaction.
A vein has landed.
He was ensuring his commitment to freedom of speech, protecting the press, revamping the newspaper industry and things like that. It's been almost a year. It's been almost a year since then. Would you say that our president has upheld his promise? And if he has, or has he made any policies or done anything that can speak to his promise that was made that day?
So I don't know if he's done anything for newspaper associations of Nigeria as an association, but as a media consumer and someone that spends a significant amount of time on social media, I would say no.
Okay.
I don't know the stats, and I wish I had actually gotten the stats. I think more journalists have been arrested in a finite period of time under his administration than before. And it's interesting, one, because he owns media houses. He's a media owner. TVC, Radio, Nation newspaper. The Minister of Information used to be a media owner. And I guess maybe he stepped down because he's now a minister. So that's the constant conversation, that you have both the person in charge of the ministry that sort of oversees media and the president, who are media owners. But the appetite for dissent is, they're like very, thin-skinned.
Thin-skinned.
Yeah, very thin-skinned.
Yeah.
And that's very disturbing for a democracy. I mean, there was, I don't know if you guys saw it, there was a flyer circulating. I don't know, you guys might get fined if I ask them to show it. But maybe we'll do it on the break and we'll see.
Yeah.
But there was a flyer that was shown that basically put him in a military uniform. And this was on the back of journalists being arrested, on the back of the attempt by the administration to criminalize protest as well. So yeah, it's certainly not. I mean, Yele was just picked up yesterday.
Yes. And
we
we're
there
there
for the 1000th time. I mean,
yes. And so you're talking about it. We just had it up. We'll get it back up. The press attack tracker actually, and has looked at even the most difficult or the most dangerous states. And so right now there have been 110 verified attacks against the media. And the most abusive states are FCT Abuja, Lagos, you see Kano, Borno, Delta, and Kwara. And those are the states. We also have a list, even just taking it from, I think, Daniel Ojukwu's arrest in May. And even during the End Bad Governance protests, we saw a number, our own Benakede number.
Right now.
Yes, so
we saw that live. We were watching that happen live.
So
and then a photojournalist in Abuja as well.
Yes, there's a list of that will come up shortly. But let's continue this. Let's spread it out. So our civic space, as it is with other countries, is about the freedom of expression, association, peaceful assembly. With all the things that we've witnessed with the Tinubu administration, how precarious do you think things are right now for Nigeria's civic actors? Aside from, let's say, we've seen what's happening with the protesters who are charged with treason, 10 million naira bail, the attacks on journalists during the End Bad Governance protest. What are the other key indicators we might be looking at when it comes to what's happening, a shrinking civic space in Nigeria? And you can see some of those attacks named there.
I think one of the ones, if we start with that, is the fact that we're now arresting children. So as part of those protesters who were protesting because they were hungry, that we've thrown in jail are 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, minors. Wow. But what's even more disturbing is that the government has refused to charge them to court. So because they haven't charged them to court, they continue to stay in jail. First of all, jailing them is a problem. But you know what? Okay, you've carried them for whatever. Can we at least charge them for an offense so we know what we're dealing with? And the case that Tolu referred to, part of the court documents said that they were attempting regime change by carrying placards.
And by saying Tinubu must go.
It's the placard one I want to focus on.
Okay.
Like, I don't understand. It's like it's written in a thing. Like,
oh, that's the official.
Oh yeah, it's written there. Yeah,
Wonderful.
by placard, by carrying of placards.
Wonderful.
Like, and I'm like, and this is the point about trying to criminalize protest.
Yeah.
So you do that, then you say protesters can only be restrained to a certain space. Then initially you say that people who are protesting want to, treason. I mean, maybe I will read the definition of treason. But you're alleging these things for people just coming out to say that they're hungry. You're arresting children. But I think to your question around, in addition to that, your question about the civic space is the fact that this current administration understands the civic space like no other.
Because they've used it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
APC, ACN, yes. ACN, APC has been Nigeria's most strongest opposition party. Right now, we don't have opposition parties.
Not anymore.
I love Peter Obi's let's kumbaya method that he's doing. Let's all have peace. Let's everybody get along mode. But that's not how you do opposition.
Even at that, people still criticize
It's actually the opposite of opposition.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's almost, and thank you for bringing that twist to it, it's as if he's almost afraid to go full on. So we kind of do a little, so he will criticize a little and then come back and do kumbaya. And then he will say, the government should not, and then be like, well, let everybody be all right. No, that's not how. And this administration understands opposition. And they understand it because they've played it.
Yes.
Tinubu has funded protests, has participated in protests,
Has
led protests.
Yes.
I mean, and the memes of him circulating from let the poor breathe to government refusing subsidies is a sign of a wicked, whatever the words that he chose to use. And then you have people within his administration who've also been part of civil society, who've been civic actors. So when your enemy, if I want to, but when the person you're in opposition against as citizens in this situation has been on your side and knows almost in a sense
all the tricks
to the trade, something's got to give.
Yeah, so I mean, I like. In fact, I have a question at the top of my head. But if I ask the question, I'm going to digress from my next question. So my next question would be that this is someone at the top who seems to know all the tricks in the books because he has been part of the system, which is, I think for me, it takes it to next level wickedness. So I would ask, is this something that is uniquely attributed to this government, or it is something that has spilled over from different leaders and at different points in time of the country? That's number two. And number three, most importantly for me, is this an intentional move by the man at the top, saying that where he is and his policies and his decisions, they go unchallenged or they are unchallengeable?
I think I'll start with that, because if you put a society in a
straitjacket,
in almost a grip of fear,
chokehold,
then you're sure they're not going to challenge it. So, and it's pushing, and it's a test. Like if you take a child, and a child is doing something wrong, and there's no correction, the child will be watching you, and watching you, and if you don't do anything, they'll continue. But if before they even move the hand, if you have told them, if you try yourself, recall. So if you are leading a country and you do a little, nothing happens. You push a little bit, nothing happens. It's that proverbial frog in a pot of oil, in a pot of water.
Yeah.
So you put a frog in cold water, which is their natural habitat, and you set it on fire. The pot boils gradually.
Listen.
And the frog just adjusts
to the temperature.
Keeps adjusting until it dies. That's where we are. And so, which is why, for me, when people talk about engagement, and I'm not opposed to it, because at the end of the day, the posture with government should not be adversarial, because there are people who are in office for the supposed benefit of the country.
Yes.
And nobody put a gun to anybody's head to run for office. You voluntarily put yourself forward.
Yeah.
But I keep saying that they put themselves forward for service. And my friends criticize me that, no, they put themselves forward for power.
Opeyemi, please, let's hold that note. We have to take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll pick up from that and also look at the response of the administration to these accusations. What have they really said to say, oh, no, we're not like that, but are they really? After the break, we continue the conversation. Stay with us. You're watching Jasiri, and this morning the Spotlight is asking a question as to whether or not Nigeria's civic space is shrinking. Our guest is Opeyemi Adamolekun. She's the executive director of Enough is Enough Nigeria, one of the country's prominent civil society organizations. You were answering Catherine's question before the break, and then, of course, I know Annie has a question as well, looking at the administration itself around body language. Is it a continuum of other past leaders, or is this something we're drilling down to being a consequence of the Tinubu administration? She had asked the three-parter. I think I only remember one part.
Whether it's, what gives the autonomy or the infallibleness
about their policies.
Yes, if
challengeable or not. Yes,
challengeable or not with the decisions that the government or the president is making as a person.
So we've celebrated 25 years of return to democracy this year, from 1999. Has it been a journey of previous administrations particularly caring about citizens, their voice and whatnot? No. And I say maybe mixed. We have times when citizens feel like they're engaging government, you're trying to move the needle. And then you have times where you just feel like you're hitting your head against a brick wall. But this administration, as I said earlier, is particularly different than previous administrations because unlike the previous ones, you have an administration that understands the civic space. Obasanjo was a former military ruler. Umaru Yar'Adua barely got a chance to govern because he was sick. Jonathan was in the midst of, they don't want him to run, they want him to run, and just trying to find his feet. And he didn't have much experience in politics anyway, so he was, in a sense, almost a fish
tossed around.
Exactly, a fish out of water. And then you had Buhari, whose main claim to fame was really the fact that he wanted to be president.
And that was it.
And he got it. And once he got it, my dude was just chilling. And so he didn't really particularly care either way. Even though, I mean, there was, journalists were jailed and things of that nature. But you didn't feel the oppression that you feel under this administration. And so because this administration has been a strong opposition and understands civic space, they're able to navigate it, I think, better than previous administrations have. And a key tool of that is just make people feel like they're powerless. Make people feel like they're helpless. And you see that in Nigerians. Yes. Like, if you're doing bad policies back to back to back, and people are just trying to survive, trying to find money to pay school fees, trying to find a way to keep their businesses moving, trying to find ways, how much time do you then have to be angry enough to do anything?
Yes.
Because you're just surviving, just trying to keep it together. And so that, in a sense, I think makes this administration a bit difficult. And to then your point, it then makes it easy to pass policies that don't get pushback because people just don't have the fight. Lagos State, for example, yesterday, announced 35,000 to 100,000 for
public
boarding. I saw a picture of a few parents with placards, a few mothers with placards. And I just thought, if there's not a groundswell, nothing's going to happen. If you can afford it, not afford it, borrow money, and then you then have the ecosystem that it creates. I'm sure you guys have done a show on loan sharks because you then get to the situation where people have to borrow money at exorbitant interest rates. And then your business. So it's just so many pieces of it that, interestingly, your mind, for some weird reason, disconnects from the fact that it's government or the fact that they're there to serve me. And it's more, I need to survive. And so you're looking for how to survive and forget the person that's causing you the pain.
And you can't then focus on trying to keep them in check.
Exactly. Wow. I mean, speaking of, I think before we went on the break, we talked about the proverbial frog in the pot. And I think there's a proverb or a saying in Nigeria, when you discipline with one hand, you pull close with the other hand. It's essentially teaching the child that I'm doing this because it's good for you. This is the benefit of this. Or I'm stopping you from doing this because these are the consequences of this behavior. So that's what we're used to in terms of how you condition people. Now, with our country, it seems like...
I'm not feeling the love. Other hand. I don't know about you guys.
It's just whoopings and whoopings. And it's like, you know what? You go find your healing wherever you want to find it, but I will whoop you to shreds. That's what it feels like. And there isn't any explanation. There isn't any
justification.
There's no justification. Yeah. We don't understand what's happening to us. It's just happening. But let's be fair. Let's try to be fair if there's any fairness to be found. Are there any responses? Maybe we haven't heard them. Maybe we don't watch the news enough. Maybe there's like a secret place where the government speaks to people that the rest of us don't know. Perhaps that exists. Has the government responded in any way at all to the cries of Nigerians, to the things that are happening, to, first of all, people are complaining about, obviously, the clampdown on the press. We're talking about the shrinking of the civic space. All these things that are happening. Has the government come out and said, listen, people, this is why we're doing it. We've heard national security. We've heard. But have they ever responded? And if they have, anything of note that you can remember?
I like the analogy you gave about a child. I was listening to Pastor Yemi Davis give an interview, and when he was talking about the fact that government's policies seem to be wicked, and that even in a family, if there are situations that you call a family meeting and say, Junior, you cannot have that and that toy because we need to save money for rent.
Yes.
And so you explain, and then even as a parent, you will show what you are also sacrificing so we can save money for rent. But in this situation, just like you, I don't know if there's a secret club of them talking to people, but I haven't seen it. I mean, the only recent statement that I saw was from Bayo Onanuga, who after Jasiri was, or took a sabbatical, came out to speak and spoke about the fact that the human rights accusation against this administration were false. Now, what was very interesting in Mr. Onanuga's statement was, and it's interesting also the dynamic, Jasiri was much younger.
Yes.
Bayo Onanuga is 60 plus, has an extensive history in journalism, extensive history in Nigeria's trajectory as well. So he was able to give us Tinubu's, human rights credentials. It was what we got as a statement. So when you read the statement, what he's basically telling you is that you guys are delusional because this man, this is his record. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, what we've also heard repeatedly is the fact that Nigerians need to sacrifice, tighten their belts, get it together, because it's for a period of time. And then to your point, as an explanation, it might be understood if we saw the country and the leaders of the country getting it together, tightening their own belts, and we're all in this together.
We're sacrificing together.
And there's some shared pain, some shared understanding. But your Senate president told you to protest while he continues to eat.
Yeah. He actually said that.
You know, there's so much unpacking to do in this very difficult conversation that we're having, because if anybody in Nigeria is not feeling the heat of these presidency, the policies, everybody is feeling it. So I just want to ask that, you know, the Office of the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, I beg your pardon, were besieged by men of the DSS recently. And on the same day that this was happening, the DSS was visiting NLC president, that is Joe Ajaero. He was affected too. He was arrested that day. Now I want to know, are CSOs like you supposed to be afraid now? Because it seems that you are at the forefront of this fight.
Are you tired?
And are you tired? Are you feeling the heat? Are you afraid for your life? Because those things are very pertinent to talk about.
In a country where you can be here today and disappear tomorrow.
And if you're speaking as a civil society organization leader, that means you're putting yourself right at the center of the storm. You are in front of the storm.
A mutual friend commented on the post when you put up the flyer for this, Abang Mercy, and she said, advocacy fatigue. Are you tired?
I mean, I listened to Shore yesterday, and one of the things that he said is, nobody can stop me from coming into my own country. That if that's what they want to do and arrest me, so be it. But I won't, for the fear of the fact that I might be arrested, not come in. Is it, I don't know, I think for me it's more annoying than it is tiring. It is just really very annoying. It's very annoying because it's completely unnecessary. Like, we kind of say it's tongue-in-cheek, and we say, yeah, you can steal money, but at least do the road. Or at least let children go to school. And I say that it's annoying because we're watching a country disintegrate before our eyes. In terms of values, in terms of the the ability for people to fulfill their potential,
bare
their dreams.
minimum.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how it's not, I don't even know if it's wickedness. It's almost demonic.
Yep.
Quite frankly,
Yep.
that people get a high from dysfunction, from watching. And this thing, which is why I keep coming back to the fact that this particular season that we're in, for me, is embodied in the fact that we are jailing, like we have children in jail because they came out to protest that they were hungry. And if us as a society don't have a sort of visceral anger that from the IG of police to the Attorney General of the Federation to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is a female and a mother, that the three of them within the judiciary system don't think there's something fundamentally wrong with the fact that children are in jail for protesting. If they looted, charge them for looting. They're laws.
Disbursement of public police.
Whatever it is that they supposedly did.
Public
But you're
property.
holding 14, 15, 16-year-olds because you feel like it. And because you think...
40, 45-year-olds, by the way, because they're not being held separately.
Precisely, with them.
Yeah.
And as someone was saying in a conversation yesterday, he says, meanwhile, your economic saboteurs who are breaking pipelines, who are stealing our crude, I haven't seen anybody arrested or being put in jail. I don't know if you guys have.
Kidnappers and bandits are on TikTok, flouting money that they've taken.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody. And then the state governor wants to empower people in a community to defend themselves by teaching them self-defense and giving them guns.
And then that's going to be budgeted for, maybe cost us, the state, 300 and something
million.
Even if it's only money. But we saw what happened in Yobe.
when that happened.
Yobe came back. Boko Haram came back in Yobe in full force. Because 2 of their men were killed.
Yes.
They took back over 100 in vengeance.
And now, where are those people?
They're part of
The community had to bury a lot of people.
And the state governor thinks the way to get out of this is
to give
let's
people
not do our
guns.
jobs. No, not at all. We don't have responsibility for security. I don't get a security vote. I'm complaining. This governor, the governor of Katsina, you said you only have 4 guns in your whatever it is, your police in your state has 4 guns. Your security vote, what are you doing with it? Like, what are you doing with it? And yet you want to arm your citizens so they can defend themselves. Meanwhile, you roll around in a convoy, I don't know how many cars deep, so you can be protected. You know,
let her hold that thought. Hold that thought in place. You mentioned the judiciary. When we come back, I want to look at this can't be happening in a vacuum. There are other people who are complicit in the shrinking of Nigeria's civic space, and that's the next part. And then what are the implications for Nigeria if this situation continues? Jasiri will be back.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Jasiri. I have a burning question, but I'll let Lolo go first because her question complements my question.
Yeah, because before we went on that break, she was talking about, Tolu actually teased it, that other people, there must be other players on this particular table because everything in Nigeria feels like we're playing a game and there are different kinds of players. I want to look at it that it can't be the only presidency that is responsible for this because they are supposed to be responsible for protecting our democratic ideals, the norms. But what is happening is not just happening in a vacuum. So who are the other players that we can't hold accountable? Especially the one that everybody looks at, that is the court. Because that's where everybody believes the hope of the common man.
The last
The last hope. They say after the Supreme Court, the only thing left is the court of God. So, would we say that their hands are in the cookie jar also?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, it's the sad state of affairs that you have. The presidential system that we run has 3 arms, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So if we say the executive is captured, the legislators, our wonderful senators and House of Rep members, are missing in action. They were away on holiday. I'm not even sure they've resumed. They were away on holiday. And there's even just that disconnect, because technically they should be the ones speaking on behalf of the citizens that they more directly represent.
Do they even remember that they are
the
there
senator
for their constituents?
told you he was eating. He's busy. They're busy. Please, they're busy at the moment. And then the judiciary, citizens are a bit disconnected from the judiciary because we don't vote. There's no direct connection with them. But from judgments that they've given, elections tend to be the most, what's it called? the most visible when they give very funny election judgments. But from the posture of the judiciary, the type of people that go into the judiciary, the judgments that we hear, we're always wondering that, are you people in this country? Are you paying attention? And so that is a bit of a challenge. Like somebody should have gotten, or we file, I'm not a lawyer, but they file motions, I guess even for this arrest, they file motions that you get the paperwork overnight. And you're wondering, but there's a process to be followed, but it wasn't followed because somebody is trying to push an agenda or push something through. Even if it's the executive or the IG, the police is under the executive, that is trying to do that, judiciary should be like, no.
There's a proper way to do this.
There's a process in law that you file this, you file that, you file that. But and this started, I would say, I think it was under Buhari, when the Chief Justice of Nigeria was removed with a piece of paper. Yes.
All right, so how does the current situation now compare to previous periods of Nigeria's political history in terms of civic freedom? If you want to plot that graph, how does it look? And while military or authoritarian rule can never be the same as democracy, who would have thought that the once feared late General Sani Abacha will now be romanticized?
A base of comparison.
I was chatting with someone yesterday who told me, at that point, Kat, do you remember when we used to think Abacha was the worst we could ever get? That's how he put it. Say, remember that time when we said Abacha the thief money pass. Now be say in the land work where these ones are concerned. I'm speaking honestly verbatim. This is what happened. So we are now, looking at the man con todo lo
Translate.
we are romanticizing him.
Like, wow. Things were better. People remember food was
cheaper. They said inflation was low, was in single digits, food was cheap. For a military dictator.
Because now every other day there's a new spate of kidnapping. So it's like...
no, let's not even...
What is this democracy doing for us?
But that's the thing. And while I'm certainly opposed to military rule, I can certainly understand it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what people are comparing are indices of their quality of life and cost of living. Yeah. So people are basically saying, this one we have freedom of speech, which is even being suppressed, I will sacrifice the ability to speak, the ability to vote, for the ability to eat.
And be safe.
And be safe. That's literally, if you put it that way. Now, does that make sense? Yes, it does make sense. But part of the journey of self-actualization is for you to have the ability to speak and to express an opinion and to choose between an apple and an orange. Not the fact that you have apples in abundance, but I want to be able to make that choice. And it's very challenging that under and we've seen, obviously, even not just Abacha, we've also seen, sort of language around maybe let the military come back. Especially when in the West African region, we've seen those coups
happening.
So it's a scary place to be, but it's quite understandable why people feel that way. And again, and I think maybe to your point, I think it was Annie that made the point earlier about people not knowing that we do maybe need to do a better job of educating people. That yes, there might be food and security, but these are the XYZ, ABCD things that you will also not have under a military rule.
So we have 3 minutes and we have two very important questions. I have one and Annie has one. So in a way, I think you've talked about the implications, but I really want you to sort of bring it home, itemize. What are the implications of a shrinking civic space for Nigeria, especially given the issues around freedom of the press, the journalists that have been assaulted, even during the End Back governance protests. Journalists were shot at by the DSS in Abuja and other places. It actually pierced the vehicle that was carrying journalists and injured one or two. And we're sitting here. And even though we have our issues as the Nigerian media, we're one of the best in West Africa still. So what are the implications of a shrinking civic space for Nigeria's democracy and human rights? And then Annie will ask her last question we have. We got to move on the time.
But really quickly, implications on human rights, I would say the frog. The frog dies.
Who's the frog?
We Nigerians.
I know, I want us to be, let's be clear, who's the frog?
You're the frog.
And the implications for democracy, I saw a clip, Godwin Obaseki, governor of Edo State yesterday, was complaining about the fact that the police arrested 6 PDP members and has not arraigned them and they're in jail. Our elections become more and more compromised because the state can use its resources to suppress people's voices.
Yes.
So do we really have a democracy in that sense?
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run in here. There's a saying that the the willingness to fight is more important than the ability to fight, because you can be able but not willing. But if you are willing, you can be taught the ability. I said that to prefix this question. What are the things that we can do to, because clearly the civic space is shrinking. What can we do to resist that legally, that can help us? I'm just going to make it simple as that. That can help us, because clearly something needs to give.
Yeah. So legally, I'll start with someone like Serap, which is very odd for them to be attacked. Serap spends their days going to court.
Yes, on behalf of the people.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. So we must continue. And so in terms of threats to government, I would actually put them, I mean, they're not raising people to bear arms or anything. They'll go to court. They're using the institutions.
Yep.
So we should continue to use the institutions and push. Locally, international courts, ECOWAS courts. But as individuals, my only appeal will be the fact that Nigerians, we deserve better. Yeah. And I don't know how else to say that, because ultimately, just as you said, the willingness comes from believing that we deserve better, believing that there are more of us that are citizens and want Nigeria to work than the few people who are in political power. And for those who use, who religion is a big part of, we're a very religious society. Both religions speak about the independence of man and righteousness and justice and fairness. So even if it's that frame that we approach it, if Nigerians believe they deserve better and see these individuals as mere mortals, maybe we'll value ourselves and our well-being above them.
I will demystify them.
Oh my Lord! Thank you so much, Opeyemi. We have to get going to make way for Business Edge, guys. Thank you, Opeyemi Adamolekun, for being
Always incredible.
Adamolekun for being.
Is
the French BPO all the tongues in Opeyemi. There you go. So much for making it on the show and taking us through the issues surrounding Nigeria's civic space. Annie.
Yes.
Thank you for answering our call like Batman, when the Batman signal is flashed in the sky. We have another great show for you tomorrow. Till then, stay tuned to News Central. We'll see you tomorrow. We will have conversations behind the scenes here.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.